Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. Yes. Got a great show for you guys. I wasn't even going to go live today, but so much information has come out in the Jacqueline Torres case. I had to come live, give you guys these updates. Primarily, we're going to be getting some backstory on this whole tragedy, and we're going to hear a lot from the family speaking up, the grandparents. We heard a little bit from the grandparents in last night's show. By the way, last night's show was demonetized. So you guys see what we're facing here? We didn't even say anything inappropriate, man, but you know, they did what they do, and that's what YouTube does, and they're always hating on the show. That's why we ask you guys religiously to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we welcome any support that people are willing to give to the show through the form of super chats and memberships, because we know that we talk about heavy topics, and because we talk about these heavy topics quite often, we get demonetized. Anyway, back to what we were saying. So we heard from the grandparents yesterday. We're going to hear more from the grandparents today. We're going to hear from an aunt, not an aunt that was arrested. One aunt was arrested. We're not hearing from that aunt. We're not hearing from the Jacqueline Garcia aunt, the one who presumably Jacqueline was probably named after, who participated in her unaliving. We're not going to hear from that aunt. We're going to hear from a different aunt. We're also going to get some backstory and some good information and some big updates on law enforcement activity resolving and orbiting this case. I can't even speak. So, guys, stay tuned, stay locked in. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you support the channel. Make sure you engage in that chat. So please, please, please help us get to 100,000 subscribers. We're going to jump right into this. Let's do it.
Get out of here. Get out of the world.
Anger in the courtroom as 3 suspects accused in the murder of a 12-year-old girl face a judge for the first time. Thanks for joining us tonight for the news at 11. I'm Keisha Grant.
And I'm Mike Hydek. Those 3 suspects remain locked up tonight, charged in connection with the death of 12-year-old Jacqueline Torres Garcia. There has been so many developments since her remains were found 1 week ago.
NBC Connecticut's Jane Chaco joins us live in New Britain tonight. Jane, walk us through the timeline of this case.
Keisha, Mike, it's a story that has shaken the New Britain community and has left so many with questions. And tonight, the Beehive Bridge is lit up in blue in honor of that little girl, and she is being remembered by so many loved ones. This is Jacqueline Torres Garcia, known as Mimi. Here she is at 5th grade graduation, wearing her favorite color, blue.
She was happy all the time, real happy. She liked to play.
She attended kindergarten through 5th grade.
So these are some of the rumors that I'm hearing off the internet. We got to verify this ourselves. There's a lot of information for us to sift through. If anybody gets information and would like to share with True Crime Strategic, please hit us up on our email, strategiceyes with a Z at the end instead of a S, strategiceyes with a Z at gmail.com. You can get that link from the link tree, which is a link that's popping up by our Nightbot, and it also can be found in the description of every video. It's the Linktree link. You hit that link, you can have access to all of our social media as well as our email to contact us. Now, that being said, some of the rumors this is coming out is apparently, this is rumors, I haven't verified it myself, it might very well just be facts, but once again, I have not verified it myself, so I cannot say that it is a fact, that the grandparents, this grandfather right here and a grandmother that has not been shown, are the ones who actually raised Mimi. They raised Mimi since she was a baby, and it was only recently in the last 2 or so years or 3 years that the mother went to court and actually got full custody, and the baby was then forced to be sent to live with the mother. Now, my understanding is that this was not an official arrangement. So when the mother did go to court, the courts is basically like, well, this is the biological mother. She wants her child. They don't have any official custody arrangement or anything like that. Send the child to the mother, right? It's also alleged that we saw through the court documents that it looks like the father at least tried for custody one time and then backed out. He stopped showing up to court. And then when the mother, Karla, actually went to court to file for custody herself, she went through the process. The father apparently did not participate in the process, and therefore that resulted in her being awarded full custody. Full custody, okay? So what that tells us from the information we saw is that the father knew how to go to court. He knew the system. The system was there. It was available for him. He was not denied visitation because of any egregious actions on his part. If he wanted to see his daughter, in my opinion, he could have went to court and definitely got visitation rights. The fact that he was not seeing this little girl is because he did not put an effort in. That's just my opinion. You look at the evidence for yourself and draw your own conclusion. But that is my opinion, my conclusion when I look at this information. So this is where we're at right now. So it looks like Feliz Osario loved this beautiful girl, loved her, and helped raise her. But at some point, they had to give her up. And nobody heard from her for a year. No birthdays, no Christmases, no nothing. Nobody called the cops. Let's keep going.
She attended kindergarten through 5th grade in New Britain, according to the school district. On August 26, 2024, Jacqueline would have started 6th grade, but her mother, Karla Garcia, filed notices withdrawing her from school to start homeschool. Police believe Jacqueline was physically abused and malnourished before her death in fall of 2024. They think her body was kept in the basement of an apartment in Farmington and was moved when the family relocated to New Britain in March 2025. Months go by, and Jacqueline's grandmother told us in Spanish she never saw her.
Siempre decía que Jacqueline no nos quería ver cuando era mentira.
Grandma looked like she's 20. Grandma looked like she's 20. She don't look like she's 20? Wow.
On October 8th, a 911 call comes in reporting people dropping off items, including a plastic storage bin, in the backyard of an abandoned property on Clark Street in New Britain. Police find human remains inside. 2 days later, on October 10th, police came out saying the remains belonged to a young girl. Family members told us they were Jacqueline's. Then family, friends, and strangers started leaving candles and stuffed animals on Clark Street, creating a memorial. On October 12th, police arrest Jacqueline's mother, Karla Garcia, charging her with murder. Her sister, Jacqueline Garcia, was also arrested, charged with risk of injury to a child and cruelty to
I mean, let's get to the elephant in the room. How grandma look better than the daughters? You gotta make that make sense. How grandma look better than the daughters? Anyway, let's keep going.
Since. The next day, police held a press conference calling this case heartbreaking and disturbing.
35 years, this is probably one of the worst cases that we've had.
Police said they were still looking for Karla Garcia's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita. On October 13th, police arrested and charged him with murder. Our cameras caught him being put into a state police cruiser, leaving New Britain PD.
Given the facts and circumstances of the case, the nature of the charges.
The next day, October 14th, all three appeared before a judge for the first time. Family of Jacqueline Torres Garcia packed the courtroom, emotional at the sight of her alleged killers.
I like that little three section picture. Aki, take note of that. Let's use that as a thumbnail. Let's keep going.
And all three are expected back in court on November 14th, and the details linking them to the abuse and murder have not been made public yet. Those warrants remain sealed for the next 2 weeks.
All right, let's keep going. Big shout out to the Rabbit Lady in the building, down the Rabbit Hole News. Appreciate you for coming through, showing love to the channel. Go check her out. It's a good true crimer. Let's do it.
On the gruesome murder of that little girl from New Britain, whose remains were found hidden behind an abandoned home. Today, one by one, all three suspects faced a judge. The victim's own mother charged with murder. Her aunt and the mother's boyfriend also stand accused. But many questions remain about what happened to the victim. Your reporter, Amanda Callahan, is live in New Britain tonight, piecing together what we know. Amanda.
Aaron, not only are New Britain police and Farmington police investigating this murder, but also DCF is involved and the state's Office of the Child Advocate. Now we know that Jacqueline was enrolled as a homeschool student, and tonight we're digging deeper into the months leading up to her death. A shocking discovery at an abandoned New Britain property last week unraveled a death investigation of a young girl. Police say 12-year-old Jacqueline Torres Garcia was a victim of prolonged abuse, malnourishment, and neglect prior to her death, which they believe happened in the fall of 2024. But Jacqueline's remains were only just discovered last week in a plastic container. We're learning more about the timeline of when Jacqueline disappeared. No missing persons report was ever filed, and according to the Consolidated School District of New Britain, she was last seen in a classroom in the 2023-2024 school year. The district confirmed that Jacqueline Torres Garcia attending kindergarten through 5th grade in New Britain on August 26, 2024, which would have been Jacqueline's first day of 6th grade. Her mother, Karla Garcia, filed an official notification of withdrawal out of New Britain School District form, stating that the...
I think she was dead. I think she was gone already. What's the rush? Why you wait till the first day of school to notify the school that she's going to be getting homeschooled? Wouldn't you have done that during the summertime or in the fall? Notify them during the summertime. You do all your paperwork. Schools are open in the summertime. Schools are open in the summertime. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff. My son, I wanted him to get tested for his IEP. He got tested. They said he doesn't need an IEP. Said he's good. He's going to grow out of what little things are going to give him a little help for the reading stuff that he needs help with. But that's great news because dyslexia does run in the family. And he doesn't have dyslexia. Let's give my son a big yay. All right? But guess when I was doing that business? I was doing all of that business in the summertime. In the summertime, the entire administrative staff of the school district was working. Why did she do it so hastily on day one of school? Unless, of course, she did not have a child to produce to the school. Remember, the police said they estimate that she has been gone since at least the fall of 2024. That's an estimation. Technically, based off of the science, she could have been gone earlier than that. She maybe could have gone maybe a month later than that. The fall starts in what? October? Who's to say she wasn't gone in August? I don't think she had a kid to produce. I think she was gone already. Let's keep going.
Student's new address would be in Farmington. Jacqueline's mother, Karla Garcia, and mother's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, are charged with her murder. And Karla's sister, Jacqueline Garcia, charged with intentional cruelty. A judge ordered all three to have no contact with one another, along with 4 unidentified minors. We know from court paperwork both sisters have other young children. Meanwhile, Nanita appeared in court visibly bruised and injured.
He's unemployed, he's homeless right now, he generally does warehouse work. He has no means to make any kind of a bond.
New Britain police arrested him last night in Waterbury after police say he attempted to speed away from officers in a stolen car. They say he crashed and ended up in a struggle with officers who were attempting to take him into custody. The 30-year-old was evaluated by medics.
Told you they'd be his arse. Told you those cops put the work in on his butt. Is either the cops or the prisoners. Somebody put the work in. Apparently the cops put the work in. Now Aki said, well, he was in a car accident, so maybe, the car accident did that to him. Nah, he struggled with the cops and they beat the bricks off of him, as they should have. Now, True Crime Strategic does not condone violence, and you don't beat on suspects for punitive reasons, but I'm pretty sure these officers used the proper level of force that was needed to bring him under control and to take him into custody safely. I'm pretty sure that's what they did. Let's keep going.
On the scene before he was taken to New Britain PD, then Farmington Police. All 3 suspects are due back in court on November 14th. The bond was set at $5 million each for Karla and Nanita, $1 million for Jacqueline. All 3 arrest warrants have been sealed for at least 2 weeks.
All right.
Live in New Britain.
Let's keep going. We marching. We just giving you some backstory. You guys know how we do on True Crime Strategic. We're going to get there. We got to give you the backstory because some people don't know nothing about this story. They got to get up to speed. So let's keep going.
In connection to the death of a 12-year-old girl appearing before a judge in New Britain.
Police recently found the remains of Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia in a plastic container outside of an abandoned building. Among the suspects in that case, the girl's mother and aunt.
News 8's Brittany Taylor joining us live now in New Britain with the latest from the courthouse and how community is honoring the life of this little girl. Brittany, good morning. What can you tell us?
Good morning, Lauren, Keith. Yeah, this is such a heartbreaking story. We're here on Clark Street in New Britain, just outside of the home where the remains of 12-year-old Jacqueline Torres Garcia, otherwise known as Mimi, were discovered inside of a plastic storage container. And as you can see behind me, there's been a huge outpouring of support. This is one of the biggest memorials that I've ever seen in my time here. You can see that it's growing day by day, lots of balloons, lots of candles, teddy bears, truly a very somber sight here on Clark Street. Now I want to take you back to court yesterday in Torrington. This is where we saw an outburst of anger and frustration. Take a listen.
Mm.
Get out of here. Get out of the courtroom. Leave the courtroom. Leave the courtroom now. Get out of the courtroom.
Yeah, a lot of commotion there. Supporters packing the court gallery, quick to make comments about the accused despite warnings from the judge. The little girl's mother, Karla Garcia, has been charged with murder and cruelty. Garcia's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, also facing murder charges. And Mimi's aunt, Jacqueline Garcia, charged with cruelty. The cause of the girl's death has yet to be determined. Now, all three of those suspects do have prior criminal convictions. Jacqueline Garcia, the aunt, was on parole for risk of injury to a minor, with the victim being an infant. Court documents show that torture was involved in that crime. News 8 spoke to one of her neighbors. Take a listen.
Jesus, knew there was a baby there, and like we would see her carry the car seat, and that was pretty much it. And the baby wasn't here long. There was a couple of nights where her and her boyfriend were laying in bed, and our bedroom's right above theirs, and they were just sobbing, "Why me?" and that kind of stuff.
What?
I thought the baby died.
Wow.
All three suspects are currently being...
Isn't it funny how the neighbors hear everything? That's crazy. If they can hear you, why me? And what else they hearing up there? That's crazy.
Held on bond, and they're scheduled to appear in court next on November 14th. And this Friday, the community, the Jeep community, I should say, will be holding a peaceful memorial ride in honor of Mimi. That's going to be taking place here in New Britain at 220 East Main Street at 5 p.m. Live in New Britain this morning, Brittany Taylor, News 8.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate you. Let's keep going. All right, the paternal grandparents say justice is being served at the girl's body found in New Britain. So this is new stuff here. Let's do it.
Story continues to develop in New Britain, where the body of 11-year-old Jacqueline Torres Garcia was found behind a home nearly 1 week ago. Thanks for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 10. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. It was an emotional day in court. The three people charged in connection to Jacqueline's death went before a judge.
Her mother, Karla Garcia, and Karla's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, are both charged with murder with special circumstances and risk of injury to a child. They're both being held on a $5 million bond. Also in court, Jacqueline's aunt, who faces charges of unlawful restraint and cruelty. Her bond is set at $1 million.
Authorities say the child died in the fall of 2024 after prolonged abuse and malnutrition. Her body was reportedly moved.
You guys got to understand, it's very difficult to end children that way because they're very resilient. They're very resilient. God has made them hardy so that they can survive. You know, we're in modern times. Man has not always lived in these modern circumstances. Modern man lived in caves. Modern man lived in huts. Modern man lived in pre-civilization. Modern man walked the plains with the saber-toothed tigers. Don't forget, we've been around for a while. We've modernized only in the last 150, 200 years. The Industrial Revolution is what has changed mankind. Prior to that, man had to struggle. Prior to that, you had to have 12 kids. Why? Because the likelihood of just 3 surviving was low. So out of your 12 kids, you maybe only had maybe 3 or 4 survivors. We were made tough. They had to go out of their way to not feed her. Even if they fed her just a little bit, she would have survived. They had to go out their way not to feed her at all. They had to go out their way to inflict torture upon her body for her not to be here with us anymore. Meanwhile, neither one of these ladies look like they ever skipped a meal a day in their life. And this guy, they say this guy is homeless and he looked like he hasn't skipped a meal. They literally put a concerted effort into ending this young soul. There should be no mercy for them because they showed Jacqueline, Mimi, Torres no mercy.
Oh my God!
I hope the criminal justice system does the right thing and sentence them to the maximum sentence that Connecticut can offer. And just know that there's no death penalty in Connecticut. Let's keep going.
From Farmington to New Britain, loved ones had to be removed from the courtroom because of emotional outbursts today, and many family members wore shirts with Jackie's face on them. The suspects are due back in court November 14th. Well, tonight we have team coverage of the case. Fox 61's Annette Montgomery is looking into similar cases that we've seen in Connecticut in the past.
But we begin with Fox 61's Valerie Moravi live in New Britain at a growing memorial to honor 11-year-old Mimi. Valerie, Mimi's grandparents were in court today, and tonight we're hearing more about the girl. What do you have for us?
Yes, Brent, that is correct. Well, Jacqueline Torres Garcia's paternal grandparents told me early Tuesday they started to feel that they were seeing justice being made for their little Mimi. And Tuesday evening, we saw several more people coming from out of town to visit Jackie's memorial site after hearing Jacqueline's story.
When I heard about it, it hurt, and I'm a mom myself. So hearing that the mom did it, it was very hurtful. She was just a little girl, and I just wanted to pay my respect.
Now here's one of many visitors who came to Jacqueline's memorial site as soon as she heard the news.
Somebody said an interesting thing in a comment. Tina says it's not like you're forced to have children for Pete's sake. I mean, good Lord. And she's basically like, you know, if you don't want to have kids, if you don't want to take care of them, you don't want to love them, don't have kids. But, you know, we have our society's in decline, ladies and gentlemen. And maybe I'm just jaded because I'm a detective and I see the worst of us, but our society's in decline. A lot of people have a very distorted view of the world. And I think part of that decline is a lack of personal responsibility. People have just freed themselves of accountability. For some reason, this generation, this decade, this century, whatever you want to call it, is like the generation of I should not be held accountable for my actions. So I look in the comment section and somebody's, you know, the usual haters will show up and like, screw you, strategic. You know, sometimes people can't help who the father of their children are. Who are you to judge them? And I'm like, hold on here. What do you mean people can't help who they make children with? That's an oxymoron. I don't want to say that word. It's a bad word. Of course you can help who you lay with. Of course you could decide who you want to have children with. But that's the mentality. This person truly believed that these folks couldn't help who they made babies with. As though we can't control our bodies and decide when we want to procreate and when we don't. And as though we don't live in a time of technological advancement where we cannot have adult activities without using certain contraptions that inhibit your ability, one, to make babies, but two, even more importantly, to protect your health. Some people really believe, oh, you just can't help it. And that's why we get these folks who make babies and they don't even want to be parents. Like, these are the people you'll talk to and you'll say, yeah, you know, you want to have kids? I'm like, no, I don't. I'm selfish. I don't want to have kids. Ill. And then a year later, you see them pushing a stroller and you're like, well, I thought you was the ill person. I thought you was the person who thought kids was disgusting. What happened? Well, ish happens. No, ish doesn't happen. You're an irresponsible person. You know you're selfish. You know you only care about yourself. Why would you bring something in this world that requires you to give everything you have to it? Children require all of your love. You can't love them if you don't love yourself. Yet so many people who don't love themselves decide to have children. Why have kids if you can't even respect laws? Kids are all about setting boundaries. They're all about rules. They're all about structure. And then you have people who don't understand structure having children. You look at the biological father, he's a career criminal. You look at the mother, she doesn't have the record of a career criminal, but she does have a violent record. You look at the auntie, a history of violence against children. You look at the boyfriend who's going to act as the stepdad, even though he's not married to the mother. He's acting as a stepdad, and he's a career criminal. All of these people are irresponsible folks, and yet they're making children. So we ask ourselves, well, how can you be a father and not know where your daughter is for a whole year? Well, you are going to ask that question because you're not irresponsible. And then you ask yourself, well, how can you have a child and then starve the child and abuse the child? And you say, well, how could that be possible? Well, you're asking that question because, once again, you're not depraved and irresponsible. We have to understand when we look at these cases, we can't relate to these people because they're not like us. These folks are counterculture. These people are on the dregs of society. They are outcasts. They don't have to stay that way. They could choose to change their lives, and we will welcome them back into our embrace at any time. But unfortunately, they don't have the will to. And the reason why they don't have the will to is because they are being bred to feel as though they're not accountable to anything. They don't have to hold themselves accountable. They could just blame others for their plight. It's not my fault. It's the fill in the blank. I don't know. Let's keep going.
I was crying all day. My heart goes out to her family.
Jacqueline's paternal grandparents told me Tuesday they were in the courtroom as Jacqueline's mother, her boyfriend, and sister were charged with multiple counts.
Whole
Patricia and her husband Felix Delgado say justice has been served. In a previous interview, they told us,
cutie pie. I'd have took her. I'd have changed her name to Strategic. Jacqueline Strategic. I'd have gave her a good life. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
how much they loved the little Mimi and the times they fought for her custody. The mom's boyfriend always knew Jackie was being abused, but he never said anything. He even had my son's phone number, but he never called to let us know. I used to always ask her to let me see the girl, but she always refused, saying that Mimi was her daughter, not mine. Now again, Jacqueline's grandparents also told us that they have submitted a petition to demolish this abandoned building to build a memorial park so that little Mimi's memory lives on. For us, that they have submitted a petition. Now again, Jacqueline's grandparents also told us that they have submitted a petition to demolish this.
So I'm here. So I heard the rumors that the father wanted to buy the house, and my understanding is that this is his parents, and now the parents are saying that they submitted a petition to demolish the house and turn it into a park. You know, I'd imagine the father has some means about him. He owns 2 businesses. He owns a tire shop. He's a former drug dealer, you know. And, you know, some people say, why you bring people's past? Listen, I grew up in the hood. It's not easy. I did not do these things that destroyed my community. So I don't respect people who decide to take the easy way and destroy their community to quote unquote survive, right? So they can have tons of money without working hard for it. So that's going to be who you are forever to me. Other people feel like you could just absolve yourself of your sins. I'm not Jesus. I believe in Jesus. I love Jesus, but I am not Jesus. You do not absolve your sins from me. So he's a former drug dealer who apparently, I guess, I don't know, there's rumors that he was in jail recently. I don't know how true those rumors are, but apparently he's changed his life. He owns a tire repair shop, and his wife owns, which is his business too, because they're married, owns a beauty salon of some sort. All right. So apparently he wants to purchase the house. That's what the rumors are. Whatever. I hear it. They want to do memorials for this child. This child didn't need a memorial. What she needed was somebody who cared. Okay? I'm not going to be ignorant like these people. You all right? I didn't stay out of trouble in the hood all that time, go to college, get an education, stay on the straight and narrow, decide to serve the people and become a correction officer and a corrections investigator and then a police officer and now a detective. I didn't do all of that to feign ignorance. I've spent my whole life trying to fight the ignorance that's being thrown in my face by virtue of where I was born, in the hood, in Harlem, during the crack epidemic. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to be ignorant, all right? This child doesn't need a memorial park. What she needed was somebody who cared while she was alive. Not a swing, not a slide, not a nice little plaque that says, "Here lies beautiful Jacqueline Mimi Torres." Sounds good. Do it. But she needed people who cared when she was here. Cared enough to say, "Where is Jackie? Where's Jackie? I haven't seen her. Christmas came, I didn't get a call. Her birthday came, I didn't get a call. Thanksgiving came, I didn't get a call." All Saints Day came, I didn't get a call. Nobody got a call from this beautiful girl. Nobody decided to call police and say, "This girl is not here." The news told you, 0 missing person reports. So yeah, you could go build your memorial parks if you want. But it's not going to take away from the fact that this girl, and I'm not putting any blame, I'm not saying grandma, grandpa, I'm not saying those people, I'm saying in general, somebody should have cared when she was here. Down the rabbit hole with a $5 super chat says, "This child needed a father that would show up to court." Amen. Amen. As we discussed yesterday on the show, when you showed the court documents, daddy wasn't showing up, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why full custody was given to the mother by default. They didn't go through a massive court battle where the judge looked at his side and looked at her side and said, "You know what? I'm going to give custody to the mother." The courts didn't make a mistake, ladies and gentlemen. The courts didn't have a choice because daddy didn't contest it. Daddy didn't show up. When daddy doesn't show up or when mommy doesn't show up, whoever showed up gets the default judgment. That's how court works. Daddy didn't show up. Let's keep going.
Abandoned building to build a memorial park so the little Mimi's memory lives on forever. For now, live in New Britain, Valerie Moravi, Fox 61.
All right, before we keep going, because we on this train, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the train. I want to give a big shout out to Sakaya. I think I'm saying the name correctly. Sakaya. If I've said it wrong, spell it phonetically in the chat, and I'll correct myself. Sakaya says, "Hi, everyone. Much blessings. Hello, Mr. Eyes. I mean, no disrespect with all the capital letters," because she wrote her comment in all caps, but I don't care. I'm not an internet person. I let the mods deal with that stuff. She says, she said, capital letters, "They had a heart attack and open heart surgery, and I have a black daughter that went blind, so I'm a mess." So I think what she was trying to say, because obviously she's suffering from some medical issues, is that she had a heart attack and open heart surgery, and she has a black daughter, so she must not be African American. She must be something else. Was Sakai, were you Japanese or something? And her daughter is blind. So I just want to give you a big shout out and say I'm praying for you. I hope that you make a speedy recovery. And we're so happy to have you here joining us in the chat today. All right. Hopefully this show brings you some measure of joy, that you're willing to share your time with us, even though you do have a lot going on. But we all have our ups and downs. And believe me, if you believe, I'm not going to say who you should believe in, but if you believe, better days will come to you, Sakaya. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Police are searching the apartment, the Farmington apartment, where the mother, Karla, and Jacqueline, and the bum, what is his name? Jonathan Nanita, something like that, where they lived. Let's keep going.
So many questions remain about what led up to the tragic death of a 12-year-old girl in New Britain. Police say Jacqueline Torres Garcia was killed last year in Farmington, and her remains were not even discovered until last week in New Britain. 3 suspects are arrested in connection to her death, are all behind bars this morning, and they include her own mother, the mother's boyfriend, and an aunt. Your reporter, Taylor Knight, is in New Britain.
We just learned that Farmington police searched a home on Wellington Drive in connection to this case. We did drive by that street earlier this morning, but there was a security guard blocking the entrance of that apartment complex. Farmington police did confirm that a search took place there on Monday, but they couldn't release any further information because of the nature of this case.
I feel really bad for her because
I don't think no kid should deserve that to happen.
Jadalee Serrano is remembering her friend Jacqueline Torres Garcia. She brought stuffed animals and cards to the growing memorial on Clark Street, where Jacqueline's body was found exactly a week ago.
When we were playing Roblox and she kept on dying in a game, so we kept on laughing.
She's a cutie pie. Now, this is her friend. This is her friend. That means that people who are similar become friends. This is how Jacqueline was. A bubbly, happy little girl. We don't even have to see Jacqueline to know who she was, because this is the person she gravitated towards. This bubbly, beautiful little girl. This is the person she gravitated to. So we know that Jacqueline was a bubbly, happy little girl who just wanted to live. She just wanted to live. Unfortunately, she was given the worst lot. Let's keep going.
Together.
Jadalee says her friend laughed a lot, but police say her home life was far from happy. Investigators believe the little girl was a victim of prolonged abuse, malnourishment, and neglect prior to her death, which they believe happened last fall while she was living in Farmington with her mother, Karla Garcia.
Get out of here. Get out of the courtroom.
Her family was outraged in court yesterday, looking to get justice for Jacqueline. Her mother has been charged with murder. Her mother's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, also charged with murder. The judge set bail at $5 million for each of them. Jacqueline Garcia, the aunt, is charged with child cruelty. Her bond was set at $1 million. Still pending. Once we get more information, we will bring it to you on air and online at WFSB.com. Your reporter in New Britain, Taylor Knight, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, big shot. So they're still working hard on this case, man. They're still working hard to get in those search warrants for those additional properties. There's probably going to be a lot of evidence there. A lot of evidence, but the problem is that the time between them finding a body, making an arrest, and all that stuff, these folks probably had a lot of time. I think they had a few days to actually get rid of evidence. So I don't know how much that's going to hamper the case, but they definitely need to get into that apartment where they were inside of the basement. I think that's the Farmington location. That's where she was at first. They're getting into that basement, see what forensic evidence they could get out of that. They need to get video surveillance if it exists, the whole nine, man. This case has just begun, ladies and gentlemen. It absolutely has just begun. Guys, we have 250 people watching the live stream right now. Please hit that like button. We only got 139 likes. We're trying to get into the algorithm. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. The year is almost up, so we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time, and we need less than 800 people to get to 100,000 subscribers. It's been a long road. We've been sticking with this channel, battling it out with YouTube, getting demonetized left and right, but we're still here. We're still here because we got a mission, and the mission is to give a voice to the voiceless. That is my raison d'être. I know I said that terribly. I'm not French. I don't care. It's my reason to be. To give a voice to the voiceless. And you guys can help me in that endeavor. And you can go on that journey with me by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and helping us get the word out. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Questions about the homeschooling oversight raised after kids. And we talked about this. You can't just have people saying they're homeschooling the kids and pulling the kids out. That's a perfect way for abusers to isolate their victims, which would be these vulnerable young people. If people are going to be able to homeschool, there has to be a system where these kids are being checked up on, where we see that they're getting a suitable curriculum, that they're actually doing the work. I don't know. I haven't seen this yet. I thought it was interesting to put it inside of our catalog. I mean, rather the research crew thought it was interesting, put it inside of our exhibits. That's what I'm going to call it from now. Our exhibits, like we're in court. So let's see what they have to say. But I think that this is a terrible thing that parents could just say, okay, we're homeschooling, and then just pull the kid out, and then you never hear from the kid again. It just seems like it's just a perfect storm for abusers to isolate them. Let's keep going.
Well, this story out of New Britain is reigniting the conversation about homeschooling oversight in our state. NBC Connecticut Investigates found out today the victim had gone to New Britain schools almost her entire life until she was pulled out for homeschooling last August. Police believe she was killed soon after that.
And a May report by the child advocate criticized the state's lack of homeschooling standards. Chief Investigator Len Bestoff is here with more on this. Len?
Well, Keisha, Mike, some of the things they talked about are really interesting. For example, this is the form you can fill out if you want to homeschool your child, but you don't even have to. It is simply a suggestion. It was just 8 months ago. We had another situation involving a Waterbury child who was homeschooled, who then dropped off the radar screen, only to be discovered allegedly locked up in a house for years. The New Britain School District was told Jacqueline Torres Garcia would be homeschooled as well, leading to questions if this needs to be tracked better.
Yes.
The Connecticut Association of Superintendents of Public Schools, while complimenting parents who homeschool, also believes the laws need modifications, including annual check-ins by parents of homeschooled children.
It is our responsibility, according to the state constitution, that says we must educate every child. They have a right to homeschool if they so choose. But I think we have a responsibility.
You know, this whole homeschooling thing is so unnecessary if you just have good school districts, man. If they just start educating kids correctly in these schools and stop wasting money on crap that they don't need to waste their money on. I can't homeschool my kids. I don't even know how to say trapezoid. I don't even know how to spell a trapezoid. What is that? I don't know. This is crazy. You could just pull your children out of the school and say, yeah, I'm going to homeschool. And then that's it. They're off the grid. They're gone. They're gone. Nobody knows. Nobody's going to look for them. Just done. Finished. Finito. Unbelievable, man. Like, this is crazy, man. This is insane.
To ensure that every child is accounted for.
The Connecticut Homeschool Network said in June its members oppose requirements like that.
We don't utilize the public school system. Our system historically works. Homeschooling just works across the board.
You can homeschool if you want, but somebody should be able to make sure that that child is still alive. I literally think that it should be a quarterly thing. Every 3 months, a child protective service person would just knock on the door, speak to the child, make sure everything's okay, and there should be some type of curriculum that should be sent in, some type of reports or curriculum or something that should be sent into the school district to make sure that that child is operating at grade level. So, I mean, yeah, all right, this lady right here might be a freaking retired NASA scientist, probably not, and she's doing an excellent job homeschooling her children. Probably that is a fact, regardless of joking about being a NASA scientist, but she's probably a good homeschooler. Maybe it works for her. Maybe she's a safe, educated, and attentive parent who can raise her children and teach them at the same time. I get it, but it's not working for everybody. It's not. In 2025 alone, we have 2 cases. Remember the other one where they said about the Waterbury early in this news briefing? That's the older guy who was removed from school and was like 30 years old, and he was a hostage in a house by his stepmother. And then you have this young lady, you have Jacqueline. That's a failure. Every life matters. Every life is precious. So one person who slips through the cracks and gets murdered like Jacqueline is one person too many. I'm not in any way trying to infringe upon anybody's rights and freedoms. I'm all about rights and freedoms. You guys know that. I'm all about rights and freedoms, especially with my guns. Don't touch my guns. But there has to be limits to everything. That's where both the left and the right lose me. Because it seems like whenever they have the policies and the ideologies that suit them, there's almost no limits. But there should always be limits. There should always be something called reason. We should operate within this world with reason. And just removing a child from school and saying, I'm homeschooling, peace, and then we never hear from the child again, that does not seem too reasonable to me, because we live in a society where vulnerable people are quite often taken advantage of. Let's keep going.
We don't need that oversight from a system that we're not part of.
The Connecticut Homeschool Network added it considers this an overreach, noting the failures have more to do with the Department of Children and Families not keeping tabs on its cases. Governor Lamont indicated he'd support more oversight.
Sometimes we, the state or DCF or the locals, lose contact with kids if they're not going to school every day. So we're trying to find better ways to just keep a track on those kids and make sure tragedies like this can be avoided.
Folks were pitching regular homeschooler checkups back in the last legislative session, But essentially, they decided not to go forward because it was late in the session and they didn't want to rush things.
So how do we compare to other states? We're, of course, not the only state that does homeschooling.
Well, very interesting. There's this OCA report from back in May, and what it said, it compared us to every New England state plus New York State. It said every one of those states has a one-year checkup that they do regularly for homeschoolers, and 2 of the states actually have to pre-approve the curriculum you give your homeschooling child.
That makes sense to me.
In a lot of these recent cases, we can see
that makes sense to me. It makes sense. And you don't see New York homeschoolers complaining about it. They're like, okay, they understand, hey, we just got to make sure, at least in the first year, that your child is still alive. And after that, they don't do checkups anymore. But you have a curriculum that you have to do, and you have to send in reports so that the whoever the oversight is can see that your child is actually learning. I mean, it just makes sense. All right. There's nothing wrong with our educational curriculum in America. The problem is we don't do a good job teaching people. That's the problem. The curriculum is not bad. So if you put that same curriculum in the hands of a parent that knows how to homeschool, they might turn out a Rhodes Scholar. So, I mean, to have this activist lady, and I'm not saying she said that, but to imply like she doesn't even want a curriculum from the state, she just wants to teach on her own, that's bananas to me, because she might be sophisticated enough to make her own lesson plan that makes sure that her children are on pace with their peers, but not everybody else is going to be able to do that. And for most homeschoolers, a lot of them go out and actually purchase curriculums. So why wouldn't you want one for free from the school system rather than you purchasing for some online training course, school course, when you could just get it for free from the school district? I don't know. That's a different conversation. Let's keep going. We're on our train. Let's keep going.
Learning more about the 12-year-old girl at the center of that awful story out of New Britain. Documents show she was homeschooled. Big question, are there checks and balances in place for children being educated at home? Here's News 8's Bob Wilson with more.
So tonight, some of the family members upset that the school district didn't check in with the family of the 12-year-old whose remains were found at an abandoned building here in New Britain. So what are the procedures for the students that are being homeschooled?
Every time my granddaughter missed school, they call.
12-year-old Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia never made it into middle school. Her mother, Karla Garcia, and her boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, they're both accused of allegedly killing the 12-year-old and storing her remains a year before dumping them at an abandoned building in New Britain. It's now become the site of a memorial for the 12-year-old, and today, family members were there asking why the school district didn't check on little Mimi. You homeschooled?
Yeah, man. My kid, they used to go to the house once a week.
The school came to your house?
Yeah. So why they didn't do it with her?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's even more draconian than I was even saying. I was saying quarterly. I was saying, every 3 months they check in. She said the school was coming to our house once a week. So if they have that policy out there and she was getting oversight once a week, the school is coming to our house to make sure that everything's okay. They dropped the ball on Jacqueline. They literally dropped the ball on Jacqueline.
She was missing and you didn't even know? 1 year. Come on, man.
Ask that to the father.
Torres Garcia.
Ask that to the dad. That's why I'm so pissed off. Ask that to the dad. Yeah, we can ask that about the school district, but that's government. The onus of protecting your progeny is you as a parent. Ask that question to the father. You was missing 1 year? Where were you?
1 year. Come on, man.
Jacqueline,
Come on. Let's ask that to the people who were bonded to Jacqueline by blood.
Torres Garcia attended New Britain schools from kindergarten to 5th grade. And on that first day of 6th grade, August 26, 2024, which would have been her first day of middle school, the school district says the mother pulled her daughter out of school. Quote, her mother, Karla Garcia, filed an official notification of withdrawal out of New Britain School District form stating that the student's new address would be in Farmington. On that same day, Garcia filed a notice of intent, instruction of student at home form with the district. The school district says Connecticut state statute does not provide a mechanism for districts to monitor homeschooled students, so neither district, New Britain or Farmington, would be following up on the homeschool student. Governor Lamont weighing in on this.
When kids are not going to school every day, we sometimes can lose a little track of them. So I want to work again with the legislature to see how we can do a better job.
So the Consolidated School District of New Britain also says They are working closely with local and state police to make sure there is justice for Jacqueline.
All right, so they're saying they don't have a mechanism for following up with a student. That lady said that they was coming to her house every week. I don't know if she's telling the truth. I don't know if she's exaggerating. I don't know if she had her own special case where maybe she had some type of CPS case and it was kind of like doing a weekly visit in conjunction with that. I don't know. But I just know that she said they were visiting her house weekly, and the government says we don't have a mechanism, a law, or or anything to do that. So weekly visits is a lot. When I heard her say that, I was like, damn, that's a lot. And that requires not just one person, but a whole team of employees, because obviously a lot of people in that area are homeschooling. My understanding is that that's a very dangerous area. I had people reach out to me. Some of them have children in law enforcement. Some were law enforcement. Some just live in that community. There's no shade on that community. People live where they can live. They do the best that they can. I know that firsthand, okay? Grew up in the projects, all right? I went from the projects to a house. No in between. All I knew was growing up in the projects, got a good job working for the government, saved up my money, and then went from the projects to a house. That's my story. So I understand how it goes. I left the projects when I was in my 20s. So I'll never denigrate people for living in poverty. But I'm saying this just out of fact that people are telling me this is a very dangerous, very low income area. Okay? Maybe people might want to homeschool because unfortunately, if it's a dangerous low income area, then you're going to have children that don't have a lot of guidance, that don't have a lot of home training, who might cause trouble in school. So you may not want your child to go to the local school because it might be too dangerous for them to go to the local school. The bottom line is you're going to have a whole infrastructure of people who would be out there checking on these homeschool students. It doesn't look like that's real. So I don't know how much to believe that lady saying that she got weekly checks. Let's keep going. We're almost to where we're going to listen to the aunt speak, and I have not listened to her speak before, but we'll see what she has to say. Let's do this last one, and then we'll do the aunt. We'll call it a day.
Deeper into the past of the 3 people charged in the abuse and murder of Jacqueline Torres Garcia. We've learned that they've all been in court before and found out the young girl's aunt just got out of prison months ago after she was found guilty of child abuse. Your chief investigative reporter Sam Sming joins us now with everything she uncovered today. Sam.
The case surrounding Jacqueline Torres Garcia raises so many questions. There are concerns her own family, outside of those arrested, and state systems may have failed her. What we do know from police is that the 12-year-old appeared to be living with her mother and aunt months before her aunt went to prison. This is Jacqueline Garcia, the aunt of Jacqueline Torres Garcia. Police say she helped Torres Garcia's mother physically abuse and neglect the 12-year-old prior to her death. Jacqueline Garcia is no stranger to the law. In 2022, police started investigating Garcia after she brought her then 11-month-old to the hospital for a broken leg.
Damn.
Doctors found multiple bruises and fractures on various body parts, some of which they say likely occurred when the baby was just 2 to 4 weeks old.
Wow.
Jacqueline told police her 2-year-old son or victim's cousins sometimes play rough with victim, but she has never seen any of them hurt victim.
Wow.
She denied hurting the child, saying the child fell off the bed. The baby's father told police Jacqueline often spent the day with the baby at her sister's and would call him to pick her up because she was drunk. In December of 2024...
Yep, there we go. We got substance abuse. That's why they look like that. I get it. Good stuff. Let's keep going.
Jacqueline was sentenced to 10 years in jail, but that sentence was suspended, and she was only ordered to serve 18 months in prison. She served 8.5 months and got out in August of 2025. She was on probation at the time of her arrest. Torres Garcia's mother, Karla Garcia, was convicted of assault in 2019, though records do not show who she is accused of assaulting. She was sentenced to probation for 2 years. Her probation ended in 2021. Karla Garcia was arrested in July of 2025 for driving without a license or registration. That case is pending.
She riding
Karla
dirty.
Garcia's boyfriend...
Now listen to this guy. This guy is a serious felon. Listen to this guy's record. Jonathan Nanita.
And Jonathan Nanita also has a criminal history. He was sentenced to less than a year in jail after pleading guilty in 2022 to reckless endangerment and interfering with an officer. We know from police in the mayor that DCF had been involved with the families.
That is not the only thing this guy was sentenced to. We looked at his record. This guy had multiple burglary charges and all that stuff. But maybe they just gave you the abridged version. But let's keep going.
we don't know when they first became involved. When we asked that question, a spokesperson said, "We're conducting a review of our involvement with the family. As our statement indicates, due to the ongoing criminal investigation, we've disclosed everything we can at this time." The Office of the Child Advocate says they will also investigate. In response to questions about Jacqueline being homeschooled, interim child advocate Christina Guillo said it is too early to draw conclusions, but added, "We know from previous investigations that some parents use Connecticut's complete lack of oversight of homeschooled children to withdraw their children from school, isolate them, shield themselves from reports to our child welfare agency, and neglect or abuse their children."
Wow.
The I-team looked into it.
If this is what your child advocacy center is saying, they need an emergency session in their state government, and they need to pass some laws overhauling their system. This is a serious loophole that it should not exist. They're literally supporting bad behavior from bad people and supporting the abuse of young people. This is unbelievable.
I told you months ago that Connecticut currently has no regulations for homeschooling. The Child Advocate says this is a known policy issue that the state needs to address, where homeschooling advocates say it's the fault of DCF and other state systems. We will continue to follow developments in the story. Your chief investigative reporter, Sam Smink, Channel.
So a lot of people don't know, like, Connecticut is known mostly for its very affluent communities. But there's a lot of very poor places in Connecticut. Like, Connecticut is a funny state. Like, in New York, sometimes the poor and the affluent areas kind of, there's like a zone where they mesh, where you don't know what community is what. You know, you got the middle class in there, kind of. It's like everybody's kind of like living together, especially like New York City. But in Connecticut, it's like very hard barriers. It's like ultra rich right here, super poor over there. Places that are like time zones, like Waterbury, Connecticut, that's like you're stepping into New York City in the 80s during the crack epidemic, when the Bronx was like burned down. The Bronx had no buildings. The only thing Bronx had was burned down buildings and rubble. Like, if you go search that up and look at what the Bronx looked like back in those days. That's how Waterbury, Connecticut looks like. It's just like you're driving through it. You got drug addicts walking up to your windows asking you for $1. Big shout out to Diana Brooklyn. She got her comment highlighted. She says, "Was the mother even a high school graduate? My understanding, she did not complete high school. And how could she homeschool? What a mess." And that's another good point. Like, in everything in our society, you got to have some type of qualifications. Now, I don't like to alienate people. So you don't have to have a high school diploma, but at least have a GED. Like, if you're going to say I'm taking my child out to homeschool, you should at least demonstrate that you have a basic grade level education. Now, whether that's a high school diploma or a GED, that would be nice. Apparently in Connecticut, it doesn't matter. But anyway, this is the last one. Apparently the family's going to speak more here, and then we'll end this one. Just to let you guys know, when I'm done with this live, I'm going to be going live again for a very brief time so that I could give you guys an update on the 5. I don't even want to mess up this live by saying it and then they demonetize, but whatever. The very, very, very young victim that we spoke about that was assaulted by the 8, 9, and 10-year-old. We're going to give you updates on that one. Very interesting story. We got it all set up. So if you're interested in checking me, look for that notification. It's going to come out very quickly, and I'm going to go live very quickly because I got to go to bed. I got work in the morning. I'm tired. So I'm going to drop that live real quick. We're going to go through the live, give you the information. I'm going to get out of there. So just know I'm going to end this live. Live stream is going to be done, and then we're going to do another live stream where I'm going to give you an update on that very interesting case that we were covering a little while back. All right, this is the last one. Family speaks. Let's listen.
She did was totally unacceptable, inhumane, disgusting.
Exclusive tonight, we're hearing from a family member of Jacqueline Torres, the girl whose remains were found in New Britain last week. Her own mother arrested for her murder. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight for Eyewitness News at 6. I'm Erin Connolly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Simone. The heartbreaking developments in this case continue. Jacqueline Garcia, the aunt to both Jacqueline and her mother, is now sharing intimate details about the family.
And your reporter Owen Kingsley sat down exclusively with her. He is joining us now live in New Britain. Owen.
A week since this memorial right behind me outside of the New Britain home where Jacqueline Torres' remains were found when this memorial began, now overflowing with balloons and trinkets from her father and mother.
What police revealed to us is that...
So this is the aunt for both Jacqueline and her mother. She looks like she's 20. But we know how this goes. All right. I'm from the hood. Many of you guys are from low income areas. A lot of these women were probably teenage mothers. A lot of them were probably teenage mothers. Let's just be honest. There's no way these women are looking like they're 25. And the people that they're supposed to be aunts and grandmothers for are in their 30s. Or their late 20s, 29 years old, I think Karla's 29 years old. Let's keep going.
She was starved and abused.
Right.
What goes through your heart as a family member?
Disgusted. I'm thinking, what was this little girl thinking? Her last moments, how fearful she was.
In 1 week since the discovery of Jacqueline Torres' remains, we've learned she likely died about a year ago, and her mother, Karla Garcia, is accused of hiding her body since then. Jacqueline Garcia is only 11 years older than her niece, Karla. She says she helped raise her, as well as Karla's sister, Jacqueline Garcia. She met Jonathan Nanita years ago.
Yo, she 40. Lord of mercy, look how young she looks. She got the fountain of youth, man. Them Latinas don't be cracking, man. They say black don't crack, but them Latinas don't crack. Oh, Lord.
When they began dating, she had heard from family that Jonathan had abused Karla.
He was beating on her, doing some crazy stuff to her.
Jacqueline Garcia says Jacqueline Torres was largely raised by her father's side of the family, but Karla gained custody of her about 3 years ago, bringing her into a household with her and Jonathan.
When I found out that Karla had custody of Mimi, my jaw dropped, and I said, how?
Despite having gone on family vacations with one another, the family drifted apart in recent years. And Yaxie says Karla didn't let many people into Jacqueline Torres' life.
Sadly, I just found 2 pictures in my phone. She wasn't around our family.
Between that, being removed from New Britain schools, and Jacqueline's father moving out of state, Yaxie says that's how she believes the girl's disappearance went unnoticed since her death about a year ago.
I would have definitely asked questions. I would have made phone calls. I would have done anything that was in my power to find out what was going on.
On Tuesday, Karla and her sister Jacqueline, as well as her boyfriend Jonathan, all made their first appearances in court.
Those are not my nieces. Those are not the girls that I raised. They look crazy, like...
Yaxie is the one who shouted from the gallery while Jonathan stood before a judge.
Get out of here, get out of the courtroom.
Yes, that was me. Even if Karla or Jacqueline was the one who came out last, I was still going to have the same reaction that I had.
Which was?
Which was anger, the outburst. You're a baby killer. You're a pig. You're disgusting. I hope you get what you deserve.
Oh, that's interesting, man. Wow. So there we have it, people. Police are doing search warrants. The family speaking out. Everybody's upset. But guess what? Where were all these people when Jacqueline was alive? Where are all these folks when Jacqueline was in a barrel in a Jamaican shipping container in a basement, rotting away? Where were they? All they had to do was make one phone call, and none of them did. Now, we can blame everybody. We could blame Yaxie, or we could blame the grandparents and all that. I'm not blaming those people. I'm blaming the dad. The father's the one who had the responsibility to fight for his daughter. The father's the one who had the responsibility to make sure that his daughter was still alive. The father was the one who had the duty to protect. Where were you? Anyway, guys, you guys are amazing. I appreciate you guys immensely. Like I said, I'm going to cut this one a little bit. Well, not cutting it short, but I'm just going to get up out of here because we got to come right back for another live to update you guys on another tragic case. I appreciate you guys immensely. You guys are amazing. Please consider becoming a member of True Crime Strategic. Our membership starts at 99 cents, one of the lowest memberships in YouTube. Period. Done. Period. Done. All right, we do that because we want to make it accessible for a lot of people. We're not money grubbers here. We want to make sure that all you guys have the opportunity to enjoy our show. And so we keep our memberships as low as we can within reason. Membership starts at 99 cents, and there's higher tiers if you can afford it. You also have an affordable Patreon. Funny thing about the Patreon is the Patreon currently is $5, but we will be raising the price of the Patreon to, I believe, $7. And the reason why we're doing that is we put a lot of content on that Patreon. We're giving a lot of time to that Patreon, and we have to be fair to ourselves and compensate ourselves accordingly for the exclusive content that we put there. So that being said, if you do join the Patreon now, you could lock it in for $5 forever, however long you want to stay. But once the price raises, it's never going back down. But if you lock it in at $5, you won't have to worry about paying $7 when it gets raised. So everybody who's a part of the Patreon right now will stay at $5, which is a very reasonable amount of money. I looked at other people's Patreons. They're charging $15 and $20. True Crime Strategic is charging $5. We're going to raise it $2 to $7, and that'll only affect new people. And that effect is probably going to come into fruition sometime next week, if not before November 1st. So please do. If you've been thinking about joining our Patreon, do it now so you can lock it in at $5. All these links, all the ways you can communicate with us, as well as our merch store, you can find on our Linktree link, which is in the chat right now, and also can be found in every single description of every show that we do. Now we're done. We saved that for the end. So if you didn't want to hear it, you didn't have to hear it. We saved it for the end. We love you guys immensely. We want to pray for everybody who's in the building that joined us. We want to pray for the children. We want to pray for some of the people who was in the chat who were saying they were disabled and they had heart attacks and stuff like that. We're going to pray for these people, man. We're going to pray for them. We're going to pray for good fortune. We're going to pray for healing, all right? I'll see you guys on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Let me get that intro lined up. There we go. Peace.